I knew I'd hit rock bottom when I couldn't fit into my favorite jeans anymore. My name is Jordan Matthews. I'm 31 years old, and I'd spent the last 3 years slowly but surely letting myself go. It wasn't dramatic, no single moment where I woke up and didn't recognize myself. It was gradual. A pound here, a pound there. Skipping the gym because I was too tired from work. Ordering takeout because cooking felt like too much effort. Telling myself I'd start eating better next week for approximately 156 consecutive weeks. The jeans incident happened on a Wednesday morning. I was getting ready for work, running late as usual, and grabbed what used to be my most comfortable pair of jeans from the closet. I managed to get them up to my thighs before they refused to go any further. I stood there in my bedroom, staring at myself in the mirror, and felt something crack inside me. Not my jeans, those were already done for. Something deeper. My confidence, maybe. My denial, definitely. I was 31 years old, working as a software developer at a tech startup in Seattle, and I'd let stress and convenience completely derail my health. I was tired all the time. My back hurt. I got winded walking up the stairs to my apartment, and now I couldn't even fit into my own clothes. That's it, I said to my reflection. Something has to change. My roommate and best friend Tyler knocked on my door. Jordan, you okay in there? You're going to be late. I opened the door, still holding the jeans. I can't fit into these anymore. Tyler, who was naturally thin and could apparently eat an entire pizza without consequences, looked sympathetic. Hey, it's just jeans. You can get new ones. It's not about the jeans, I said, frustrated. It's about what they represent. I'm not healthy, Tyler. I'm not happy. I feel like I'm just existing instead of living. He nodded slowly. Okay, so what are you going to do about it? I don't know. Join a gym? Hire a trainer? Even as I said it, the idea felt overwhelming. I'd tried gym memberships before. I'd go for a week, maybe 2, then find excuses to stop. My sister's boyfriend is a personal trainer, Tyler offered. Derek something. She's always talking about how he helped her get in shape for her wedding. Want me to get his contact info? I hesitated. A personal trainer felt like such a commitment, and expensive, and intimidating. But looking at those jeans in my hand, I realized that intimidating was exactly what I needed. I needed someone who wouldn't let me make excuses, who would hold me accountable. Yeah, I said finally. Get me his info. 3 days later, I found myself standing outside Momentum Fitness, boutique gym in Capitol Hill, trying to convince myself to go inside. I'd talked to Derek on the phone earlier in the week. Had a friendly voice and an easy manner that made me feel slightly less terrified. We'd discussed my goals: lose weight, feel better, not die climbing stairs. My schedule flexible, since I worked remotely most days. And my budget manageable if I cut back on takeout. Come by Saturday morning, he'd said. We'll do an initial assessment, talk about a training plan, and see if we're a good fit. No pressure, no commitment. Just a conversation. A conversation that required me to exercise, apparently because he'd told me to wear workout clothes and bring water. I took a deep breath and pulled open the door. The gym was smaller than I'd expected, not one of those massive corporate facilities with rows of identical machines and TVs everywhere. This place felt more personal, more intentional. There was a section with free weights and resistance equipment, an area with kettlebells and medicine balls, and what looked like a small studio space in the back. Large windows let in natural light. The music playing was energetic, without being overwhelming. A woman at the front desk looked up and smiled. Hi, can I help you? I'm Jordan Matthews. I have an appointment with Derek. Oh, you must be Tyler's roommate. He told us you were coming. Derek's just finishing up with another client. You can wait here, or you can head to the studio in the back, whatever's comfortable. I decided to wait, partly because I was nervous and partly because I wanted to scope out the place. I watched people work out, surprised by the variety. There were people of all ages and body types, all working at their own pace, all looking determined, but not miserable. It wasn't the intimidating, judgment-heavy atmosphere I'd feared, Jordan. I turned to find a man approaching me. My first thought was, of course the personal trainer looks like that. Derek was probably in his early 30s, tall and built, with sandy blonde hair, blue eyes, and a smile that belonged in a toothpaste commercial. He wore a black fitted t-shirt with the gym's logo and athletic pants. And he moved with the kind of easy confidence that came from being completely comfortable in his own body. He extended his hand. "I'm Derek. Great to meet you in person." His handshake was firm, but not aggressive. "Thanks for meeting with me," I said, trying not to feel self-conscious about the fact that I was already sweating and we hadn't even started yet, of course. "Come on, let's head to the studio where we can talk." Followed him to the back room, which had floor-to-ceiling mirrors on one wall, various equipment stacked neatly along another, and enough space to move around comfortably. Derek grabbed a clipboard and 2 water bottles from a small fridge in the corner, handing me one. "So," he said, settling onto a bench and gesturing for me to sit across from him, "Tyler tells me you're looking to make some changes. Tell me more about what brought you here." I'd prepared a polished answer, something about wanting to be healthier, having more energy, general wellness goals. But something about Derek's open, non-judgmental expression made me tell the truth instead. "I couldn't fit into my jeans," I said, and I realized I'd been making excuses for years. "I'm tired all the time. I'm not happy with how I look or feel. And I'm scared that if I don't do something now, I'm going to wake up at 40 and realize I've wasted my 30s being uncomfortable in my own body." Derek nodded, not jumping in with platitudes or sales pitches. "That's honest. I appreciate that. And I want you to know that what you're feeling is completely valid and really common. A lot of my clients come to me with similar stories." He leaned forward slightly. "Here's what I can tell you. Change is possible. But it's not going to be easy, and it's not going to be fast. If you're looking for a quick fix or a miracle transformation, I'm not your guy." "I'm not," I said quickly. "I mean, obviously I'd love fast results, but I understand that's not realistic. I want sustainable change. I want to actually develop habits that stick." "Good, that's the right mindset." He made a note on his clipboard. "Let's talk logistics. I typically work with clients 2 to 3 times per week for 1-hour sessions. We'll focus on strength training, some cardio, mobility work, basically building a foundation of fitness that you can maintain long term. I also provide basic nutrition guidance, though I'm not a dietitian. So if you want detailed meal plans, I can refer you to someone." 2 to 3 times a week sounds manageable," I said, "and I definitely need help with nutrition. I basically live on coffee and whatever's easiest to order." Derek smiled. "We'll work on that. But I want to be clear, I'm not going to put you on some restrictive diet that makes you miserable. We're going to focus on adding good things rather than just taking away things you enjoy. Small, sustainable changes." We spent the next 20 minutes discussing my medical history, no major issues, my previous experience with exercise, minimal and mostly unsuccessful, in my current lifestyle. Derek asked thoughtful questions and actually listened to my answers, taking notes and nodding encouragingly. "All right," he said finally, setting down his clipboard. "Here's what I'm thinking. Before we commit to anything, let's do a basic assessment so I can see where you're starting from. Nothing crazy, just some simple movements so I can understand your current fitness level and any limitations. Then we'll talk about a plan. Sound good?" My stomach clenched with nerves, but I nodded. "Okay? Great. And Jordan, I need you to understand something." He looked at me seriously. "Whatever you can or can't do today doesn't define you. This is just a starting point. There's no judgment here, no comparison to anyone else. We're just gathering information, okay?" "Okay," I said, feeling some of the tension ease. The assessment was humbling. Derek had me do basic movement squats, push-ups modified on my knees, and I could only manage 5. A plank I lasted maybe 20 seconds, some stretches to test my flexibility. He watched carefully, making notes, offering gentle corrections to my form. "You're doing great," he said as I struggled through a set of lunges. "I can see you're trying hard, and that's what matters." By the end, I was sweating, breathing hard, and acutely aware of how out of shape I really was. But Derek didn't seem fazed. "Okay," he said, offering me a towel. "Take a minute to catch your breath. Then let's talk about what I observed. I wiped my face and tried to slow my breathing, feeling embarrassed. That was pretty bad, right? That was a starting point, Derek corrected gently. And honestly, you did better than you think. Yes, we have work to do on strength and endurance. Your flexibility needs attention, and we'll need to work on core stability. But you showed up. You tried everything I asked, and you didn't give up even when it was hard. That tells me you have the most important thing: determination. I barely did 5 push-ups, and next month, you'll do 10. The month after that, maybe 15. Progress isn't linear, and it's not fast, but it happens if you're consistent. He pulled out his phone. Based on what I've seen, here's what I recommend. 3 sessions per week to start. We'll focus on building foundational strength, improving your cardiovascular endurance gradually, and working on mobility. I'll also give you some homework-led activity on your off days. Nothing intense. Just walking, maybe some stretching. 3 times a week, I repeated, trying to imagine fitting that into my schedule. But honestly, what was I doing with my time anyway? Binge-watching shows and scrolling through social media? I know it sounds like a lot, Derek said, reading my hesitation. But think of it this way. That's 3 hours out of 168 hours in a week. Less than 2% of your time. And the return on that investment is huge: more energy, better sleep, improved mood, strength, confidence. It's worth it. He was right. I knew he was right. Okay, I said. Let's do it. Derek's face broke into a genuine smile. Yeah, that's great, Jordan. I think we're going to make real progress together. He pulled up a calendar on his phone. When do you want to start? I have availability Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings, or Tuesday, Thursday evenings. Mornings might be better, I said. Get it done before work saps all my energy. Smart. Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 8 a.m. Let's do it. We spent a few more minutes handling the administrative stuff. Pricing, gym membership, paperwork. It was more money than I usually spent on myself. I tried to reframe it as an investment rather than an expense. As I was getting ready to leave, Derek walked me to the door. Hey, Jordan. I just want to say I'm really glad you're doing this. Change takes courage, and showing up today was the hardest part. The rest is just showing up consistently. Thanks, I said, meaning it. And thanks for not making me feel like a complete disaster. He laughed. You're not a disaster. You're someone who's ready to make a change. There's a big difference. He held out his fist for a bump. See you Monday morning? I bumped his fist, feeling a small spark of something I hadn't felt in a while. Hope. See you Monday. Monday morning arrived too quickly. My alarm went off at 6:45 a.m., and for a moment, I considered every possible excuse to cancel. I was tired. It was raining. I could reschedule. But then I remembered how I'd felt standing in my bedroom, unable to fit into my jeans. And I forced myself out of bed. By the time I arrived at Momentum Fitness at 7:55 a.m., I was awake enough to be nervous. Derek was already there, setting up equipment in the studio.
Morning.
He called out cheerfully because apparently some people were naturally energetic before 8 a.m. How are you feeling? Terrified, I admitted. He grinned. Honest, I like it. Don't worry, we're starting slow. Today's all about learning proper form and establishing baselines. Ready? The next hour was one of the longest of my life. Derek took me through a series of exercises: bodyweight squats, modified push-ups, dumbbell rows, planks, kettlebell swings. He demonstrated each movement carefully, watching my form with an attentive eye, offering corrections in a way that felt helpful rather than critical. But bring your hips back a bit more, he'd say, lightly touching my lower back to indicate where I needed to adjust. Perfect. Feel how that engages your glutes more. His teaching style was patient and encouraging. When I struggled, which was often, he'd offer modifications or encouragement. That's it. 5 more seconds on that plank. You've got this. Breathe. 4 more. 3. Good. By the end of the session, I was drenched in sweat and my muscles were shaking. But I'd done it. I'd made it through. Excellent work, Derek said, handing me water. How do you feel? Like I might die? I gasped. He laughed. That's normal. But also, don't you feel kind of amazing? Like you accomplished something. I thought about it. Under the exhaustion and muscle fatigue, there was something else. A sense of achievement, maybe. Pride, even. Yeah, I admitted. Actually, I do. That feeling is why people get addicted to this, Derek said. Not the soreness, though. You'll definitely be sore tomorrow, but that sense of accomplishment. You pushed your body, and it responded. You're stronger than you were an hour ago. I don't feel stronger. Give it time. Trust the process. He grabbed his own water bottle. Make sure you stretch tonight, drink lots of water, and get good sleep. Your body needs recovery. And Jordan, don't be alarmed if you're really sore tomorrow. That's called delayed onset muscle soreness, and it's totally normal when you're starting out. Great, I said dryly. Something to look forward to. Wednesday morning. I discovered that Derek had massively understated the soreness situation. I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My legs hurt. My arms hurt. Muscles I didn't even know I had hurt. Getting out of bed was an ordeal. Walking down the stairs to my apartment required holding the railing and moving like an elderly person. Tyler found me in the kitchen, moving in slow motion while trying to make coffee. Dude, he said, trying not to laugh. Are you okay? I'm dying, I moaned. This is it. This is how I go out. Death by personal training. Maybe you should skip today's session? I considered it. Every part of my body was screaming at me to stay home, to rest, to never exercise again. But then I thought about Derek's words. Showing up consistently is what matters. And I'd already texted him that morning to complain about the soreness. And he'd assured me that light movement would actually help. No, I said, wincing as I reached for a mug. I committed to this. You're braver than me, Tyler said. When I hobbled into Momentum Fitness 45 minutes later, Derek took one look at me and started laughing. That bad? I'm walking like a penguin. I can see that. Come on, let's do some mobility work first. It'll help, I promise. He was right. After 10 minutes of gentle stretching and foam rolling, which hurt in a weird, productive way, I actually felt better. My muscles loosened up, and while I was still sore, I could at least move like a functional human. The workout itself was lighter than Monday's. Derek had clearly adjusted the intensity based on my recovery level. We focused on different muscle groups, and he incorporated more rest between sets. Recovery is just as important as the workout itself, he explained as I rested between exercises. A lot of people think they need to go hard every single day, but that's how you get injured or burned out. Your body needs time to adapt and grow stronger. So this gets easier? I asked hopefully. He smiled. Yes and no. The soreness will decrease as your body adapts. You'll get stronger, so things that feel impossible now will feel manageable. But I'll also keep challenging you with new exercises and heavier weights. So in a sense, it stays difficult, but you'll be capable of more difficult things. That's either inspiring or terrifying. Probably both, by Friday. Something strange was happening. I was actually looking forward to the session. Not in a this is going to be fun way, but in a I'm curious to see what I can do today way. The soreness had decreased significantly, and I felt accomplished carrying that feeling through the week. I'd also noticed small changes. I had more energy. I was sleeping better. And I hadn't ordered takeout once because Derek had given me some simple meal prep ideas that were actually doable. Look at you, Derek said when I arrived, right on time. Walking normally again? It's barely, but yeah. Does that mean you're going to make today harder? Maybe a little, he admitted with a grin. But I think you can handle it. That session, Derek introduced me to the concept of progressive overload, gradually increasing the difficulty of exercises to keep challenging my body. We did the same movements as Monday, but with slightly heavier weights, or a few more reps. See, he said as I completed a set of dumbbell rows with better form than I'd managed earlier in the week. You're already stronger. This weight felt heavy on Monday, and now you're moving it with control. He was right. It still wasn't easy, but it was definitely easier than it had been a few days ago. All right, last exercise, Derek said toward the end of the session. I want to see how long you can hold a plank. Last time you made it to 20 seconds. Let's see if you can beat that. I got into position, focusing on keeping my core engaged and my body in a straight line like he'd taught me. Good form. Derek encouraged, kneeling beside me to check my positioning. Breathe. Don't hold your breath. That's it. 20 seconds. My core was burning, but I held on. 30 seconds. You've already beaten your record. How much more do you have in you? I don't know, I gasped. Yes, you do. Trust yourself. 40 seconds. Keep breathing. 50. My whole body was shaking, but something stubborn in me refused to give up. 60 seconds. Derek's voice was genuinely excited. Jordan, you just held a plank for a full minute. You tripled your first attempt. I collapsed onto the mat, breathing hard but grinning. Really? Really? That's huge progress for 1 week. He offered me his hand to help me up. You should be really proud of yourself. And here's the thing. I was. For the first time in years, I felt proud of my body for what it could do rather than ashamed of how it looked. 3 weeks into training, I realized I was developing a problem. The problem wasn't the workouts those were getting. It's more manageable as my body adapted. It wasn't the early mornings or the sore muscles, or even the significant dent in my takeout budget. The problem was Derek. More specifically, the problem was that I was developing a crush on my personal trainer, which was quite possibly the worst idea. I'd had in years it had started innocuously enough. I'd noticed he was attractive that was impossible to miss. But I'd assumed the attraction would fade as the training became more routine, as he became just another person in my life, rather than someone new and interesting. Instead, the opposite happened. The more time I spent with Derek, the more I liked him. He was encouraging without being patronizing, funny without trying too hard, and genuinely seemed to care about my progress. He remembered details from our conversations, asking about a work presentation I'd mentioned, remembering that I didn't like bananas so he wouldn't suggest them for post-workout snacks, noticing when I seemed tired or stressed and adjusting the workout accordingly. And yes, okay, the fact that he was objectively gorgeous didn't help. But it wasn't just physical attraction. It was the way he threw his head back when he laughed, the concentrated expression he got when he was demonstrating a new exercise, the genuine pride in his voice when I accomplished something new. It was, in short, a disaster waiting to happen. You're distracted today, Derek observed during our Wednesday session in week 4. We were doing dumbbell shoulder presses, and I'd apparently zoned out mid-set. Everything okay? Sorry. Yeah. Just thinking about work stuff. That was a lie. I'd been thinking about the fact that Derek's t-shirt was particularly fitted today, and how that was very unfair to my concentration. Want to talk about it? He asked. Sometimes physical exercise helps process mental stuff. It's fine, just boring work drama. He nodded but didn't push, which I appreciated. We finished the set in silence, and I tried to refocus on the workout rather than my increasingly problematic feelings. But then Derek did something that made everything worse. Hey, he said as we were cooling down at the end of the session, I know this might be overstepping, but I've noticed you seem kind of stressed lately, like beyond normal work stress. Is everything okay? You know, outside of training? The question caught me off guard. I'd thought I was hiding it well. I'm fine, I said automatically. Derek gave me a look that clearly said he didn't believe me. Jordan, you don't have to tell me anything you're not comfortable sharing, but I want you to know that I'm here if you need to talk. Not as your trainer, just as someone who cares about how you're doing. And there it was. The genuine concern, the kindness, the sense that he actually saw me as a person rather than just a client. It made my heart do something complicated and inconvenient. I appreciate that, I managed. Really, I'm just dealing with some personal stuff. Nothing major. Okay, but the offer stands. He smiled. And hey, you're doing really well with the training. I can see how much stronger you've gotten. I hope you can see it too. I can, I admitted. I even went hiking with Tyler last weekend, and I didn't die. A month ago, that would have been impossible. That's amazing. See? Progress. He started cleaning up the equipment we'd used. You should celebrate these wins, you know. Not just the big ones, but the little ones too. Every time you show up, every time you push yourself a little harder, every time you make a choice that supports your goals, those all matter. I helped him put away the weights, trying not to read too much into the comfortable silence that fell between us. This was his job, I reminded myself. Being supportive and encouraging was literally what I was paying him for. It didn't mean anything personal, but then why did it feel so personal? That evening, I confessed everything to Tyler over healthy takeout grilled chicken and vegetables. Because I was trying. So let me get this straight, Tyler said, chopsticks poised midair. You have a crush on your personal trainer, yes. Personal trainer that my sister's boyfriend recommended, yes. One you see 3 times a week, yes. And you have no idea if he's even gay, I groaned, and put my head in my hands. I know. I'm an idiot. You're not an idiot. You're just ... human. Tyler took a bite of broccoli, thinking, have you tried, I don't know, asking if he's single? Or mentioning that you're gay to see how he reacts? How would I even bring that up? Hey Derek, while you're spotting me on this bench press, just wondering about your sexuality. Maybe not like that, Tyler conceded. But you could mention something in passing. Talk about a date you went on, or an ex-boyfriend. Just to signal that you're available and interested in men. You don't really talk about personal stuff like that, Jordan. He literally asked you today if everything was okay in your personal life. That sounds pretty personal to me. He had a point. Besides, Tyler continued, what's the worst that could happen? He says he's straight. You feel awkward for a session or two, and then you move on. Or you don't even ask directly. You just put it out there that you're gay and see what happens. Or I make things weird and ruin the training relationship we've built. And then I have to find a new trainer and start over. Which sounds exhausting. You're catastrophizing. I'm being realistic. Tyler rolled his eyes. Fine. Then keep pining silently and being distracted during workouts. That's definitely a better plan. I threw a fortune cookie at him. But later that night, lying in bed and scrolling mindlessly through my phone, I thought about what Tyler had said. What was the worst that could happen? Derek seemed like a decent person, and if he wasn't interested, he'd probably be cool about it. And I was an adult. I could handle rejection. Besides, this crush was affecting my focus during training, which wasn't fair to either of us. Maybe it would be better to just get it out in the open one way or another. I pulled up Derek's contact info in my phone. We mostly communicated through the gym's app for scheduling, but he'd given me his personal number in case I ever needed to cancel last minute or had questions about the homework exercises he assigned before I could overthink it. I typed out a message. Hey Derek, quick question. Do you have any recommendations for LGBTQ plus friendly gyms or fitness spaces? I have a friend who's looking and thought you might know. It was subtle, right? Just casually mentioning the LGBTQ plus community in a way that might signal my own identity without being too obvious. I hit send before I could chicken out and immediately regretted it. What if he thought it was weird that I was texting him about non-training stuff? What if my phone buzzed? Derek? Hey. Yeah, actually, Momentum is very LGBTQ plus friendly. Several of our trainers and members are part of the community, including me. But if your friend wants other options, there's a great gym in Fremont called Pride Fitness that's specifically LGBTQ plus focused. The owner is a friend of mine. I stared at the message, my heart racing, including me. Derek was part of the LGBTQ community, which didn't necessarily mean he was gay. He could be bi, pan, queer in some other way. But it meant ... possibility. It meant I hadn't been completely delusional to feel a connection. I typed back, that's great to know, thanks. And good to know about Momentum. I'll let my friend know. Derek, anytime. See you Friday morning? Me, definitely. I set my phone down and stared at the ceiling, a stupid smile spreading across my face. This changed things. Or maybe it didn't. He was still my trainer. And there were still professional boundaries to consider. But at least now I knew that my feelings weren't completely impossible. At least now there was a chance. Friday's session was torture. but not in the usual physical way. Now that I knew Derek was part of the LGBTQ+ community, I was hyper-aware of every interaction. Every casual touch when he adjusted my form, every smile and laugh. I kept trying to read meaning into things that were probably just him being a good trainer. "You seem distracted again," Derek observed halfway through the session. "Still work stuff?" "Something like that," I said, focusing on the kettlebell swings he had me doing. "Well, whatever it is, you're channeling it well. These look great." After the cool down, as I was gathering my things, Derek asked, "Hey, do you have a few minutes? I wanted to talk to you about something." My heart jumped. "Sure. What's up?" He led me to a quieter corner of the gym, away from other members. "So, I've been thinking. You've been training with me for about a month now, and you've made really impressive progress. Your consistency has been great. Your form has improved significantly, and I can see how much stronger you're getting." "Thanks," I said, unsure where this was going. "Here's the thing," Derek continued. "I think you're ready to start pushing yourself even more. Not just in terms of weight or intensity, but also in terms of variety. I'd like to propose that we add some outdoor training to our sessions trail running. Park workouts, maybe even some rock climbing if you're interested. It would help break up the routine and challenge your body in new ways." "That sounds great," I said, relieved that this was about training and not something awkward. "Good. There's just one slight complication." He looked almost nervous, which was unusual for him. "Some of these activities would take us outside the gym, which technically means they'd be happening outside my official training capacity here at Momentum. I'd still charge you the same rate, but we'd be operating more independently." "Okay," I said slowly. "Is that allowed?" "It's a gray area. I'm not exclusively contracted to the gym, so I can do independent training. But it does change the dynamic a bit." He met my eyes. "I want to make sure you're comfortable with that." "I'm comfortable with it," I said. "I trust you." Something shifted in his expression, a softness, maybe, or relief. "I'm glad. Because honestly, I've really enjoyed working with you, Jordan. You're one of my favorite clients." The way he said it felt significant, like he meant more than just professional appreciation. Or maybe I was reading into things again. "You're one of my favorite trainers," I said, trying to match his tone. "Actually, you're my only trainer, but still, you've helped me more than you know." We stood there for a moment, the air between us feeling charged with something unspoken. "So," Derek said, breaking the moment, "how do you feel about meeting at Discovery Park tomorrow morning? We could do a trail run or walk, depending on how you're feeling, and then do some body weight exercises with the view. It's supposed to be beautiful weather. That sounds perfect." Saturday morning. I met Derek at Discovery Park at 8 a.m. He was wearing running shorts and a fitted athletic shirt, and I had to remind myself to be cool and act normal. "Morning," he called out, stretching his quads. "Ready for something different? As ready as I'll ever be?" We started with a gentle jog on one of the easier trails, Derek setting a pace that was challenging but manageable for me. The park was gorgeous tall trees, glimpses of Puget Sound. Through the branches, the morning light filtering through the canopy. "How does this feel compared to the gym?" Derek asked as we jogged side by side. "Different," I panted, "but good. I like being outside." "Me too. This is actually how I started getting into fitness trail running. There's something about being in nature that makes exercise feel less like work." We slowed to a walk when the trail got steeper, and Derek started pointing out different landmarks and sharing stories about the park. He was surprisingly knowledgeable about local history and ecology, which added an unexpected dimension to his personality. "You really love this city," I observed. "Do. I grew up here, moved away for college, came back about 5 years ago." He glanced at me. "What about you? Are you from Seattle originally?" "No, I grew up in Portland. Moved here for work about 3 years ago." "Do you like it?" I thought about it. "I'm starting to. It took a while to feel like home, but lately," I trailed off, not wanting to admit that a lot of my recent positive feelings about Seattle were tied to these training sessions with him. "But lately," he prompted. "Lately I've been appreciating it more," I finished. "Finding new places, new routines. It feels less lonely." Derek nodded thoughtfully. I get that. It's easy to feel isolated in a city, especially when you're working remotely and not forced to interact with people regularly. We reached a clearing with a stunning view of the Sound, and Derek declared it was time for the workout portion. He had me do a circuit of exercises, push-ups, squats, lunges, mountain climbers, using just my body weight and the natural environment. At one point, he had me do step-ups on a fallen log, spotting me to make sure I didn't lose my balance. His hand on my lower back, steadying me, felt electric. "You're doing great," he said encouragingly. "Two more." After the workout, we sat on the log to cool down, both of us drinking water and catching our subscribe to my channel.